My name is Whitney Lewis, and this is my presentation about the internship I did this year for my child development degree. So I did my internship at BYU, Idaho, and I did it in what they call the Our Child Labs. They're basically the toddler lab and preschool that are held in the Clark building for families and children in the community. And I did mine in toddler lab, and I was a supervisor over all of the other teachers in toddler lab. So it was different than being in toddler lab as a teacher. Now you may be wondering how I got this internship, and basically, long story short, is I ended up in toddler lab as part of my major, and I was a teacher in there for fall semester 2016. And then after the semester was almost over, my faculty supervisor approached me and offered me an internship being a supervisor over the rest of the teachers in toddler lab for 2017 in the spring. So there were a lot of responsibilities for this internship, and it was hard for me to kind of narrow down because it was a large variety of things. I wasn't always doing the same thing every day, but for the most part, these are the basic responsibilities I had. When we started toddler lab at the beginning of the semester, I was in charge of helping my supervisor with the training. They call it upfront training for the toddler teachers. So I was a big part of that. And then as the semester went on, I graded activity plans, toddler notes, parent handouts. I graded a lot. And then as part of that, I provided feedback and revisions to teachers so that they could fix those plans. And then there's a class that goes along with toddler lab called Core, and I was in charge of helping my teacher with that and helping her set up and teach during that, subbing for her when she was gone. And then I also observed every day in toddler lab the teachers that were teaching and gave them feedback. I ran fire drills every month, made sure those went well. And then the first few weeks of toddler lab, I also taught a few times to show the teachers how we normally do it. In terms of how I feel like I was able to benefit the toddler lab at BYU Idaho, I think one way I was able to help is just training the teachers that I was over and helping them learn, kind of how we do it in toddler lab, but also just how any child care system should work and what a good one looks like. And I was able to help them write activity plans and notes to send home to parents and help them learn how to write them professionally in the way that would be most helpful. And then I also was able to fill in for my supervisor whenever she needed it, and other lab supervisors as well, which provided them some help. And then I was able to revise and kind of improve some of the documents for the course for iLearn and hopefully help make it a little better for next semester and the future. And then I was able to help my supervisor a lot with anything she needed. I was kind of her right-hand man. And then I was able to cultivate an appropriate environment for toddlers, which I think is one of the most important ones because we are child-centered and we want the best for our children. So that was one thing I felt like I was able to do too. There were also a lot of things I felt like I benefited from doing this internship. I was able to deepen my learning and my understanding of child development curriculum and what I've learned throughout my courses in this degree and be able to see it applied in real life, and just how that works with children, working with children. And I was also able to learn how to give specific feedback, but constructive feedback as well, to the teachers that I graded their plans, and tried to help them learn and grow. And then I noticed a lot of leadership skills and confidence that I gained throughout this, just from the nature of having to be a leader over my peers. And then I was able to learn from my supervisor how to scaffold learning for the teachers as well as the children, and in helping them a lot at the beginning and then slowly letting off so that they could become more independent. And then I also learned how to adjust to the needs of different groups of toddlers, because I was in toddler lab as a teacher, and then having watched during this semester 2 other groups of toddler classes, I've really learned how different classes interact, just depending on the teachers and the toddlers and their personalities, and how to kind of adjust to the needs of different classes. It was hard for me to choose just one connection that I made from this internship to my curriculum I've learned in my major, but one big thing that really stood out to me was DAP, which is developmentally appropriate practice. And I saw this not only in our lesson plans, which we plan for age-appropriate goals for every activity, but also individually appropriate goals for each child that they're working on and their individual interests. But I watched this in action during a couple different labs. We had one boy that he was one of the older ones, and he would explore every station, and after about 15 minutes he would just start running around, and we finally realized he was bored, and so we had to start planning more advanced activities for him. And then another example was a boy who didn't like sensory activities, but his DS really wanted to get him over by this water activity, so she used developmentally appropriate practice to know that if she used his interests, she played a special game with him at this water activity, that it would get him more interested in it. And so they used his individual interests and adaptations that way to plan for him. Would I recommend this internship to someone else? I would definitely recommend this, and I would say it worked really well for my needs, but I also learned a lot from it, and I'm so grateful for that experience. To get in, you would have to be in toddler lab first as a teacher, like I was, and then Sister Cranmer would probably be the one to talk to. But again, it wasn't something I applied for or asked for, it came to me, so keep that in mind.